Howdy y'all, this is John with channel Zoic, and I am actually going to make a smaller video today that's a little bit different than what I usually do with this specific series, but I got a really good idea from one of the commenters in the first video that I released that kind of gave me an idea to talk about dorms since they are in the same realm as apartments, but a little bit different with a couple things that you can and can't have. So we'll be talking about the top exotic tips for dorms. So right off the bat, there's going to be a lot of overlay with my original video about apartments, but there's going to be some big differences, and those ones are going to be the size and then whenever it comes to climate control that we're going to talk about. One of the big things is most dorms, not all, but at least the dorm that I went to, it had no kind of climate control, so it was very hot in the summers and kind of cold in the winters. There was a little bit of heat, but in general, it wasn't what I would consider to be great climate control. It was also very small. Even whenever I had the room to myself, I still didn't have much space to put my stuff, and having anything bigger than a 20-gallon is going to be pushing it. But all of this doesn't matter unless you actually can keep an animal in your dorm. There's a lot of dorms that won't allow you to have pets, especially anything bigger than like a betta fish. The one that I went to, you could only have something that could live in water, and that's it. And please do not ever decide to keep an animal whenever you aren't allowed to have animals at your dorms. For one, it's going to be very harmful for the animal because it's going to have to be, hidden. And it's also going to get you in trouble, especially as a younger person in a college. So I recommend just following the rules in this specific situation. If you're allowed to have animals, great. We're going to talk about those. But if not, I would not worry about it and just wait till you're out of college. Another thing to keep in mind is you're at a college dorm. There's going to be a high chance that you're going to have a lot of young people that are experiencing alcohol for the first time. And depending on the animal, that's not a good mix, especially if you have an animal that you like to show off. And I'm not saying you will be the person to say, hey, come check out my animal to a bunch of people that are intoxicated and something bad happens. But there's always a chance. You can't be there 24/7, and whenever it comes to drinking and animals, it just does not mix. So especially things that are very fragile, I don't recommend having on campus. Now for my recommendations, it's going to be a very short list, and there's actually only going to be 1 to 2 reptiles I actually recommend having on campus. One of those is going to be leopard geckos or any kind of gecko that's a terrestrial hardy gecko. One that can handle if it gets a little bit cold or if it gets warm. There are a couple that I would say fall underneath this, but a leopard gecko is probably the only one that I'd recommend, and even then, that's pushing it because you're going to have to deal with heating, you're going to have to deal with making sure that it doesn't get too hot because they can overheat still. The one thing that I will recommend though is any kind of beetles, say like death feigning beetles. I have some of those. They're very cool, but they're also hardy. They don't take very much work, especially whenever it comes to any kind of heating. You don't have to have specialty lights. They can handle being in just the regular environment that they're in. And they're very easy to take care of if you miss a feeding every once in a while. A couple others that I'd recommend is maybe a jumping spider or a mantis. You can keep them in a smaller enclosure that I would say falls into the same area where you don't have to worry about it taking up a bunch of space, but you can still have something that's kind of a desk pet. And I think that that's probably going to be the most that you would ever want to have. That's only the ones that I would recommend personally. And here are my do not get these animals. I'm going to be obviously basically any animal that is large. Don't get it, but I'm going to talk about some ones that are popular that you may think, oh, I can get away with, but I would say right now, do not get these for your dorm unless you know very specifically the kind of climate control that your dorm has, and then also where you're going to be living and how much space and if it's allowed. The first one right off the bat is crested geckos or any kind of New Caledonian gecko. If you do not have full control during the summer of the temperature, do not get it. The area that I was in during college, it would get up into 85 to 90 range in my room, and all I had was a fan. your crested gecko is going to die very fast if you're in that same situation or somewhere close. So I don't recommend any temperature dependent animals. Even if it's on the cooler end, it's almost even more dangerous for them, in my opinion. Another ones is anything that's shy and doesn't like any sound. So I would say basically any small animal that has a tendency to hide, I would not get it at all. It's just too much of a risk that they're going to get stressed out and died, so your chameleons or anything like that. And even for slightly more hardy and larger animals, ball pythons are very tempting to get because they don't need as much space as a larger animal, but you're not going to have enough space. You're going to have harder dependency of the temperature. And then also, ball pythons are usually the first to get taken out and handled. And like I said, whenever it comes to intoxication, there's a high chance that your animal is going to get hurt. So overall, if you're wanting to dip your toes into keeping animals during your college years, definitely do research on the specific college that you're going to and their dorm setup. Along with, as I said, I would recommend just waiting until you're out of college. If you want to get some death feigning beetles or a jumping spider or something like that, I think that that's fine, and you should be able to take care of that relatively easy. But I would not go any farther than that. Either way, if you have any other questions or any ideas, please drop them in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day!